Welcome to this explainer. Okay, picture this. You step into your shower, you turn on that perfectly warm water, and maybe 2 minutes later, you realize you're basically standing in a slowly rising soapy wading pool, right? It's one of those universal everyday mysteries we've all encountered at some point. You just watch the water swirl lazily around the drain, taking its absolute sweet time to disappear. And you think to yourself, yeah, I should probably look into that. But you don't. Well, today, we are breaking down some really fascinating insights to uncover the surprisingly complex mechanics of exactly what happens when you ignore a slow drain for just a little too long.
So be honest, are you ignoring a slow drain right now? Let's just validate something right off the bat here. It is incredibly easy to procrastinate when it comes to household plumbing. I mean, a slow drain feels like such a minor, totally deferrable nuisance, doesn't it? It's not like it's a burst pipe. Water isn't violently spraying all over your walls, so we just kind of try our best to ignore it. We let the tub drain for 20 minutes after we've already dried off and left the room, assuming that out of sight simply means out of mind.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the source material completely shatters that comforting little illusion. That minor, everyday nuisance? It is actually a plumbing emergency just waiting to happen. The core message here is that postponement is literally the absolute enemy. A slow drain is not some static condition that just stays mildly annoying forever. No, it is a progressive deterioration. When you just leave it alone, you aren't pausing the problem. You are actively allowing a manageable, highly treatable clog to escalate into a full-blown plumbing catastrophe.
To really understand why this escalation happens, we kind of have to look at the ingredients of the problem. Here are your common culprits: hair, soap scum, food particles, and grease. We wash these materials down the sink and shower drains every single day. And, often we just assume that once they pass that little metal grate, poof, they magically disappear into the vast municipal sewer system. But the reality is much, much more stubborn. These things don't just vanish, they accumulate. They physically stick to the walls of your pipes, they bind to one another, and they slowly build this rather unappetizing, solid foundation of pure gunk right out of your view.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the truly fascinating mechanic at play here, called the snowball effect. Understanding this is going to fundamentally change how you look at your plumbing. See, a slow drain usually indicates that something is already actively collecting inside the line. But it doesn't stop there. Once a small obstruction forms, let's say a tiny tangle of hair wrapped around the drain stopper, it acts exactly like a net. With every single use of that sink or shower, that initial tiny blockage aggressively catches more passing debris. It's basically an exponential growth problem happening right beneath your feet.
Let's actually break down the exact chronological anatomy of a clog as it progresses. It happens in 3 distinct steps. Step 1, the initial debris accumulates, forming that sticky net we just talked about. Step 2, as that net catches more grease, more soap, and more hair over days or weeks, the obstruction physically thickens into a dense, solid mass. And step 3, because the obstruction is taking up so much volume inside the pipe, the physical space for water to actually pass through continuously narrows. So the draining inevitably progresses from barely functional to a literal pool of completely standing, stagnant water.
And hey, if you happen to live in an apartment or a condo, the stakes are significantly higher. Lots of multi-unit housing structures utilize shared plumbing lines. So this means that a severe clog in your unit doesn't just neatly isolate itself to your bathroom. Oh no. That snowball effect we just discussed, it can quickly push the obstruction deeper into the main shared line, meaning the negative impact spreads way faster than you'd expect. Literally, one neglected, slow-draining sink can suddenly snowball and heavily impact the shared plumbing for the entire building. Talk about a quick way to annoy your neighbors.
And this brilliantly illustrates how these annoying symptoms map directly to the highly unhygienic realities lurking under your floorboards. Like, if you hear gurgling sounds, that means water is actively struggling and rising higher in the pipes because it just can't move freely. If you notice lingering smells, which, by the way, can even spread through your vents, it's because stagnant water is just sitting there, trapping decaying, odor-causing material. And then there's the absolute worst-case scenario, wastewater backflow. Blocked pipes can physically force unhygienic, contaminated water straight back up into your connected fixtures, which will completely ruin your day.
Now, when the water stops draining entirely, that's when the panic sets in, right? We get desperate, we try to force the water through. But be warned, our improper attempts can cause massive, long-term risks to the pipes themselves. We might aggressively plunge the drain over and over, or worse, pour highly corrosive chemical cleaners down the sink in a blind panic. These actions, especially in older plumbing systems, can increase wear and cause severe damage.
Persistent deposits might permanently narrow the pipe walls, leaving your entire plumbing system super vulnerable to even more frequent blockages in the future.
So the crucial point is knowing exactly how to safely respond. Let's look at some clear, practical guidelines. If the symptoms are mild, meaning you have a visible clog right near the drain opening, you can take safer, incremental steps. Just clear it out manually and start using a simple drain strainer to catch debris and reduce that buildup. But if you are facing persistent symptoms like frequent slowdowns, recurring gurgling, or water literally backing up, it is absolutely time to call a licensed plumber. Professionals have the specialized tools to inspect the line and clear those deeper blockages safely without destroying your pipes in the process.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this fantastic mic drop quote from the source text. A slow drain is rarely just slow. Think about that. It is a glaring warning sign. It's a symptom of an underlying issue that is actively growing worse with every single drop of water. Ignoring it? Well, that just leads to foul odors, nasty backflow, and extremely disruptive, expensive repairs. So, I have to ask you, are you going to keep pretending you don't notice that pooling water in your shower tomorrow morning? Or are you ready to finally address it before it becomes a structural nightmare? Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.